Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. Today on the Produce Moms Podcast, we're welcoming two guests, two individuals that work really in the sphere of fresh produce that I find myself increasingly more and more passionate about with each and every passing day. It's become a cornerstone of why we do what we do at the Produce Moms, and that passion is to get more fresh produce into school meals. So today, so excited. We're welcoming back a previous guest. We had Mollie van Lieu, who is the Senior Director of Nutrition Policy. You got to scroll way back in the archives. She was with us literally 100 episodes ago and during episode 14. And we're also welcoming Adam Russo. Adam is a new guest, a gentleman who I frankly just met through LinkedIn. Adam interacted with a recent LinkedIn post that I made sharing my passions and frankly my concerns about salad bar removal from school being a huge threat to fresh produce in school. Adam is a director of an award-winning Office of School, Food, and Nutrition Services in Prince William County Public Schools. They're located in Northern Virginia. Adam comes from a chef and food service background, owning and operating restaurants, and then pivoting to school nutrition 7 years ago. So just a wealth of information. His district has over 100 schools and centers. So really just wonderful to welcome you both, Adam and Mollie, to the Produce Moms Podcast today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be back.
Oh, thank you both. It's going to be a great episode, and we're going to really dive into some important and compelling questions. So, without further ado, let's get started on that. And I think that probably the first thing we should do is brief introductions from you both. So, Adam, please, as the first time guest on the Produce Moms Podcast, we'll invite you to introduce yourself first, and then Mollie after you.
Sure. So again, I'm Adam Russo. I'm the director for Prince William County Public Schools Office of School Food Nutrition Services. We recently won Food Service Director Magazine's Operation of the Year, the first K-12 operation to ever do so. We feed about 90,000 meals a year, typically in non-pandemic years. Last year, 2 years ago now, we served 15 million meals. We serve lots of fresh produce. We get all of our lettuce from a hydroponic Viv lettuce farm right here in our county, do lots of farm to school, lots of cool initiatives. Really proud of our program and the services that we're able to offer our scholars.
Wonderful. And Mollie, a quick intro for those that weren't with us 100 episodes ago.
Sure. Yep. So Mollie van Lieu, I'm the Senior Director of Nutrition Policy at United Fresh Produce Association. So I kind of work on all things trying to increase fresh produce consumption, fruit and vegetable consumption among Americans, specifically looking at federal feeding programs. So the school meals program is a huge part of that. So I've been doing this at United Fresh for about 3 years, but have been in the federal nutrition policy space for about 12.
Right. Yeah. Mollie and I have spent many afternoons on the Hill together. This woman has taught me a lot and inspires me to stay on top of it and stay passionate about fighting the good fight for getting more fresh produce into school meals and other child nutrition programs. So thank you both for the work that you do. It is so critically important. Today's episode, Adam, we met through a passionate LinkedIn post that I shared where I was concerned about salad bar removals in schools, and you quickly came to the comment section and said, hey, who said fresh produce is going anywhere? So I want to set the stage for today's discussion with that remark, because Adam coming out and saying, look, we're committed to bringing fresh produce to our students the way we always have been, regardless of whether we're living in a post-pandemic environment or not. So this is going to be a wonderful episode, and you've got three very passionate and dedicated people with you all today, myself, Mollie, and Adam. So Mollie, let's start with you, setting the stage just on like current state, really. Across the country, school cafeterias have been just, affected, emptied. Some districts, kids aren't even going to the cafeteria anymore. They're eating in their classroom due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are amidst, a new academic year, back to school. What does food service look like? Yeah,
sure. So it is not an easy question to answer, because it really depends so much on what states and local districts have decided to do. So if you look back in March when COVID hit, most schools shut down across the country, and that resulted. And one thing that folks don't often realize is how connected the school nutrition programs are to the federal government. There's a reimbursement rate. There's all of these rules and regulations that come with it. So there was a lot of waivers and flexibilities that needed to happen in order for schools to adapt to the serving environments that they were really forced to do. And school nutrition heroes really stepped up to that and worked their tails off in the spring and through the summer to continue to ensure that their kids were fed. And you're seeing something similar in the new school year. So it really does depend on what schools and localities decide to do. So for those that are opening schools back up in parts of the country, I don't think anybody's going to do exactly what they did a year ago. You'll see more social distancing in cafeterias. You'll see more individually wrapped items or pre-plated items. Some schools are doing meals in the classrooms. Some, like Adam's district, will be sending food home again because they are doing virtual learning. So there's really no one size fits all, and schools are adapting, and then accordingly the industry and all the suppliers are adapting as well.
Yeah, and one thing that my time on the Hill with you and other leaders within United Fresh Produce Association has taught me is that there's really no one size fits all for school meal programs, period. With or without the pandemic, every district is met with their own unique needs, their own, unique student demographics. All of that has led to us needing to have a ton of flexibility in the way that we get fresh produce to school meals and to students. So, Adam, I'd love to talk to you now a little bit more about what you specifically are doing at your district, and then also any models or work that you want to share that your colleagues are doing. I know you're a very well connected and highly involved school food service professional.
Sure. So as Mollie touched on, we're switching to a completely virtual model for the first 9 weeks of school. So that means that none of our scholars will be in our buildings. That's very similar to how it's been since we started the emergency feeding on March 16th. Obviously, we've had a little more time to prepare for it now, and we were trying to take in our lumps from the beginning of the pandemic until now and kind of learned from what we did really well and where we had room for growth. So what we're looking at doing is transitioning to more of a grocery style supplement box that families can pick up once a week on Mondays to get all of their meals at once, and then have those meals available for them as well, Tuesday through Thursday. That way, if you were to forget on a Monday, you still have those food available. Originally during the pandemic, we had selected to feed at select locations to minimize the number of staff that worked. We have about 1,000 employees who work for our department alone. So we wanted to minimize their risk for safety as well. So we utilized less than 100 people to hand out, to date, almost 1 million meals. And so we've been doing this with a really streamlined staff. We're starting to bring our staff back. And so we're going to be able to make our offerings a little bit more robust. as far as the fresh fruits and vegetables go, we're going to trend a little bit more towards things that don't have to be refrigerated, which is really nice for the fresh fruit and vegetable realm. Not all of our families who rely on our programs have access to heating or cooling methods for weeks worth of foods. So we're very cognizant of that, making sure that our let's give them a bag of apples rather than give them something that, potentially would require refrigeration more so than something you could put on your counter even. And so we're trying to get a little more creative. And then Virginia, our grow cycle runs counter to the school year. So during normal years, our grow cycle in Virginia is that, June-ish to October-ish sweet spot. We got a lot of squashes and other things, some stone fruit, but for the most part, our farm to school happens September, October. And so we're trying to incorporate as much of the fresh stuff as we can. A normal school year in October, we do second grade corn husking competitions where every second grader in the entire school division shucks corn together. The winning classes at each school, they get corn from the future, which is popcorn. My dietitians disagree with me, but it's corn from the future. And that's what the winning class gets as their prize. But really the prize is the next day, every kid in school eats fresh Virginia corn because they own it, right? They went through the process of shucking that corn. We had a mom call us 2 years ago and she was crying because her student was so upset they were going to miss corn day. They had shucked it the day before. So we saved it so that it was there for them the next time they were there. And so we're still trying to incorporate those things. We're not gonna have some of the cool, fun things we used to do it with, but still trying to make sure that we're delighting our guests and giving them things that sometimes they haven't tried before to try to open their palates up. That way, when they go to the local farmers market, maybe they try things that they wouldn't have otherwise tried.
Yeah, no, that's great. And did your district, prior to schools being shut down, did you have a salad bar?
Yeah, so we have 101 schools and centers, and every single one has a self-service garden bar, and that's an unlimited garden bar.
Yep.
So we do all of our sides, and then we make some baked goods as well. So we make like a really yummy strawberry shortcake where we make the cake from scratch, and then we put fresh strawberries on top, and that's a side item we offer once a month. That's not unlimited. You can't get a ton of those. But if it was just plain strawberries, as many strawberries as you want, as many, if you're one of my sons, as many pickles as you want, as many cucumbers. But it's unlimited, always a nice salad on the bar. We have a lovely hydroponic bib lettuce that we get here locally in Manassas that we are their only customer. And it makes for the base for the majority of our salad products as well.
So how does that sustain, Adam? I mean, how can we make sure that when school does resume, that those type of options and choices still exist? Because I mean, it's just magic when you go into a school cafeteria and you see those kind of fresh offerings in abundance, and especially with the unlimited help yourself, get what you want, take what you need type of, offering. It really is one of my favorite things that has, that's an advancement in school meals that has me concerned, as you know. I mean, this is one of my top concerns. It's how you and I connected on LinkedIn. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, and I'm not trolling LinkedIn. These are the things I'm thinking about too, honestly.
Yeah.
The thing that struck the chord with me was the idea of self-service, I think for right now is a little dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And that's based on CDC guidelines and people being risk averse to touching other things that other people have touched. I think as the science continues to evolve and people have more information about the spread of a respiratory disease through fomites, I think people will lessen on that. But ultimately, it's going to come down to operators knowing their HACCP protocols and making sure that they have mitigation strategies in place for when it comes back to self-service. For us, I just don't see that something we ever go away from, because for our students to have that level of ownership of the fruits and vegetables they choose, you haven't seen consumption like you have in one of our cafeterias, to be perfectly honest. These garden bars have 6 to 8 shotgun pans on them, so that there's a rainbow of colors, and they're taking a little bit of this, a little bit of that, maybe a lot of this, and they're coming back with full, bountiful trays of fresh fruit and vegetables that they're excited about. We got kids excited about fresh broccolini with Parmesan cheese on top. I feel like those are big wins for us, and so we'll switch to upping our cleaning schedule for those things. High touch point areas we clean regularly already. We'll up those, maybe potentially adding at the beginning of the location wax paper or a single-use glove item so that students can still utilize the tong and take their salad while then not contaminating a tong for the next scholar, I think could be a win. And for us, as we were transitioning to to a classroom service style where we weren't traditionally going through the line, our plan was to offer restaurant style menus where students could select their choices and then select as much as they wanted. And then we'd run the food back if we had to. Because at the end of the day for us, a hungry kid can't learn. And we know that kids are going to learn better with proper nutrition. And so giving them the micro and macronutrients they're going to get in fruits and vegetables, and the whole fruits and vegetables, especially having to consume that, process that through their body, it's going to keep them fueled much, much longer. It's going to keep their energy in the right place. They're not going to be, we get the sugar spikes with other stuff. They're going to be better behaved, more attentive in class. Those are all big wins. And they're big wins for home too, when you're going to be sitting in front of the computer screen. But really for us, I said it earlier with our nutrition education, we have K through 12 lesson plans that we've integrated into the classroom that correlate back to standard-based learning examinations. And so in kindergarten, every single student that comes to Prince William County, when they're a kindergartner, they get a little chef hat and an apron, and they come through one of our kitchens while we're baking bread from scratch and we're cutting fresh vegetables and we're processing fresh fruit. And they come in and we show them, here's the walk-in refrigerator full of all that yummy stuff. Here's the food you should be eating every day. And we've hooked them in, and we have guests for life. We have lifelong healthy eaters, which ultimately, as an educator, is, my youngest son is 5. He calls me the lunch teacher. And at the end of the day, I take that role very seriously. Yeah. We are here to teach students how to be lifelong healthy eaters. That way they can be lifelong healthy learners and adults. And so I think that it's going to be, the onus is going to be on the me's of the world, the other directors that say, no, this is important. It's important that our students get these choices. And it's one of the few times that our students have agency in their day where they get to choose something. And so when you get that ownership, when my son gets to pick the big honkin' salad, he's going to eat it all because it's his salad. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Mollie, Adam just said something that, triggered me I know that one of the things you're working on as it relates to the federal policy is maintaining that student choice. So tell us anything else and maybe share some of your insights and data on how we present on the Hill so that Congress and policymakers, everyone understands the tremendous benefits of children eating school meals and fresh produce within those school meals.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adam's so passionate. It's hard to follow that. But I think that's such a testament to just the impact that programs like Adam's have on feeding. So in terms of kind of maintaining access and a wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables. And part of that is really the industry stepping up and making sure that those items are continue to be available. That's something at United Fresh Convention, United Fresh Live. Back in June, we had some convenings where school nutrition directors and industry suppliers were talking about that and making sure that those needs can be met. So having a wider variety of individually wrapped items be available, particularly vegetables this year, to be able to meet schools where they are. And I think that there are some really kind of cool things that could come out of this. I mean, often, kids aren't really known for going home and always reporting exactly what they did at school or eating at school. But in a situation like Adam's district and others where they'll be sending these fresh fruits and vegetables home, I mean, the exposure that the whole family will be provided by seeing their children eat fresh fruits and vegetables. I think that's really a bright spot that, if we can promote a wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, regardless of the setting, that's really going to show parents that their kids do want to eat this and take ownership of that. So I think on the industry and just on the personal side, there's a lot of positive that could come out of this if we look for it. But just in terms of the impact that school meals have, we know on data, it reduces food insecurity for children. Obesity rates are going down as a result of the updates that have happened over the last 10 years. Improved health outcomes for the industry, it's been a huge boon. So there's about 30 million school lunches served a day, and those each have a full serving of fruit and a full serving of vegetable. Sounds like districts like Adams, even more than one. And those cases. And then at breakfast, that's another 12 million or more servings. So every single day, you're looking at 72 million servings of fruits and vegetables, and that's 72 million opportunities to put a fresh fruit or vegetable in front of kids. And we know that that really has an impact on the fresh produce supply chain, especially in rural areas and small areas. It's often the largest, most consistent restaurant in town is a school meal program. In larger districts like Adams, they're a huge driver and consumer of fresh produce sales. So it's really just making sure that we are telling the message as an industry that these products are still available. And I know on a district level, industry suppliers are having those conversations with their customers. But we're also trying to spread the word to the Hill and to USDA. We recently sent a letter to USDA because we had collected from industry members the variety and how much individually wrapped items were available this school year, to really show that fresh fruits and vegetables and a wide variety of them is still possible regardless of the distribution setting this year. And we're going to have to continue to be nimble, because I think schools that are starting out open, they may close if there are outbreaks. So it'll just take a ton of communication and working together to find solutions for this. But that's kind of how the country has been operating for the past 6 months anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great summary of what's happening in DC on this topic. Adam, I got to come back to you now, because I listened to you talk. Reading your bio, understanding that you have, a rich history and the restaurant industry as an owner and operator at restaurants, and now focusing on school food service and the programming that you have described thus far. It's like, oh my gosh, who wouldn't want their kid to dine in this establishment on a daily basis? That's something that's always top of mind for me as we create programming and messaging at the Produce Moms surrounding school meals, is we want folks to understand participation is necessary, and squashing the false notions, many of which were probably memoirs from the past of what school meals used to be versus what they are today. Those are things that we always strive towards at the Produce Moms, is to make sure that people know your participation, your enthusiasm, your confidence in school meals are critical. And anytime I have the opportunity to say it, I go on record and say it. I mean, hey, I send my kids, my 2 boys go to school with lunch money, not a lunch box. I think that's really important for people to understand, that I have complete confidence, someone who's built my whole career in the fresh produce sector of agriculture, I have complete confidence in the offerings that are available through USDA school meals. So Adam, with that, I'd like to welcome you back to share your thoughts on, just grassroots initiatives and what people can do, what parents can do to support the really important work that is happening in school cafeterias across the United States.
No, and I'll piggyback off of what you said. Like you, my 3 boys and my wife, who is an educator, they are all 3 guests of ours every day. They are not packing lunch. They're going to eat with us every day. I'm incredibly proud of our offerings. I think we do a really bang up job. And to Mollie's point earlier, we are the biggest restaurant in town. We happen to also be the best restaurant in town. So we have that benefit also for our families. There's no secret sauce. Our staff really cares about kids, and they do a nice job for them. We ask a lot of them. And I think that's the grassroots effort that I would challenge families around the country with. It's participate in our programs. I mean, Lori said it. We don't get any money from the school board. All of our funds are driven strictly by sales. So if your school division is serving junk food and it's working and nobody's complaining and it's all working, they're not going to change what they're doing. Same thing, if nobody's buying the meals, they don't have the economies to buy the fresh foods that we do. You go to a restaurant that has a really, really long menu, and your first thought is they must have a really, really big freezer, right? It's the same thing for a school kitchen. If they're not going to turn over volume, how are they going to get in fresh fruits? Are they going to have the training? Are they going to have the money to bring in staff to get tools and things? Our kitchens are geared up. The average reimbursement for a lunch and a breakfast is $1.50 and about $3 a pop. In the restaurant world, you're at That's a third of what you'd be looking at from that straight revenue. That doesn't have a lot of wiggle room to cover the cost of a $12,000 oven or a $500,000 hood or a $15,000 walk-in refrigerator that you need to house the fresh fruits and vegetables. But with spending your money somewhere comes an expectation. And I think that's the other side of my ask for families, is to have an expectation. If Lori sent her children to school and she was not satisfied, I would certainly hope that she would call, and not call Adam. Don't go on Facebook. Don't tell the internet, tell the manager. It's just like Yelp. Don't go on Yelp to complain about your bad meal. Tell the manager, make it right. I know that our staff would do anything. They would run through a brick wall to make sure that a kid was fed that day. That is no different across the country. And so just because someone put out a bad tray doesn't necessarily mean they woke up that morning with that intent. They might have just had a bad day. Remind them, let them know this wasn't good enough. They'll get better. They'll move forward. A lot of times people just haven't been challenged on their thinking, and what's always been good enough has been good enough. And unfortunately, when the metric is profitability or not profitability, then good enough is good enough. For us, that's not the metric. The metric is, how well are our students performing in class? What are our attendance rates? How are we doing on tests? What is the engagement level with our programs and our survey systems? And that's how we're judging ourselves. It's not by, did we break even this year, or did we have to ask for money from the education fund? And we've been, a big credit. Our superintendent has been here for 17 years, Dr. Stephen Waltz. There is no greater friend to the National School Lunch Program than our superintendent. When I first got here, he's the 30th largest school division in the whole country. And the first thing he said to me as I met him, he came back from his 4th of July holiday vacation to meet me on July 1st. And he said, Adam, I think I've got every kitchen in the county with an air conditioning except for one up and running perfectly. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, Dr. Waltz, you're talking about the kitchens and air conditionings? That's just not usually the priority for a superintendent, especially a superintendent this big. But he understood that our team takes care of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Until we can bloom, those students can't do the rest of the things we need them to do. So he made it one of his points of emphasis that our infrastructure is incredibly strong, and a credit to him and our school board for that, because as such, we have incredibly well-equipped kitchens, which helps to keep our employees much happier and doing a great job. And so for a very long answer, there's a lot you can do. The really short answer is participate.
Right.
Come enjoy a lunch. Tell your friends how good it was. And if it wasn't that great, tell us, let us know so we can make it great. Right. That's really what it comes down to. We want to do a good job.
That's right. And, in closing for this episode, I'd like us all to take a turn at answering the question, what's one thing you want our listeners to know about the current school meal system? And I'll kick this off. I mean, I always want people to know that I have confidence in it, and it's what my children eat on a daily basis when school is in session. It's also something that I'm proud to join Mollie and other members of the produce industry on, in DC to promote an increased presence of fresh produce in school meals. But I think really the number one thing that I want people to know is that food security is human security. And in a nation that has changed so much in such a short amount of time, the security surrounding school meals has become even more important. So keep that top of mind. And as you really evaluate the champions and the heroes within our American society right now, school food service, these people are true heroes. Mollie said it earlier in the show, and I want to emphasize that as my closing thought. So Mollie, I'll take it to you for the one thing you want our listeners to know about the current school meal system. And then Adam, I'd like you to close us out.
Sure, Laura, thanks. And, I would partly just piggyback on what you said. I think school meals are so incredibly important, and probably most important to kids who are struggling at home and are food insecure. But I think it's a misconception that school meals are only for poor kids and kids who are struggling. And I'd really challenge our industry and anyone who's listening to really think about school meals as a responsibility that we all have. It's so important to our industry, their current customers, their future customers. And there's so much that schools need right now in order to sustain the gains. Different policy asks that we are asking for are increased waivers and flexibilities, which kind of gets convoluted. And we have the Washington Conference where we'll be advocating for these things at the end of September, which we would invite folks to join. Universal school meals, making sure that every kid can walk into the cafeteria and get a school meal at no charge to them, is something that is really important to the future of school meals. And we'd love for the industry to come together to really recognize the importance of school meals to both, again, current student population, to the industry, to the health and nutrition and future of our country. So really just challenge folks to think about school meals as a really comprehensive solution to part of our food system.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of Mollie. I think the first thing I would say about our current school meal system is that it is broken, and that we do still have a free and reduced lunch program where families must identify themselves and their means in order to receive meals at no or low cost. We get every kid to school on a bus for free. They get books for free, HVAC, all the other things in a traditional education are free. And then the meal has a price associated with it. If you want a welcoming environment where every kid can succeed, make meals free for all students to reduce those stigmas. Get rid of the fence and even the playing field for all, ultimately. Now, saying that, just because the system is broken does not mean that individual operations are. There are hundreds of thousands of dedicated staff members across this country that care about your children. At the end of the day, parents trust us with their best, so we will always do our best to nourish their scholars and prepare them to learn. There is no group of people who I would rather go to bat for every single day than our heroes on the front line, because they are truly that. Through weather across the country that was snowing in the beginning of the pandemic, to triple digits here now and monsoon style rain, our families have been out serving, our staffs have been serving out millions of meals to our families during this pandemic because they care about them so much and the communities they serve. That's truly what I want to share, is a message of love and a group of people who truly love and cares for those that they serve.
That is so good, Adam. And it is so true. And Mollie, thank you for your remarks as well. I will say it doesn't matter what school cafeteria I find myself in throughout this great country. It's, I do often, Adam, I quickly and often identify love as the number one ingredient. There's just so much passion and sincerity in the work that takes place on a daily basis. And really that's what food is all about. I mean, food is culture. Food is how we demonstrate our love and care for people during so many moments that life throws at us. I mean, you think about it, your friend has a baby. What do? You sign up for the meal train. A loved one dies. What do? You deliver your favorite comfort food casserole and put it on their survivor's front porch. It's just love. Food is love, and that doesn't stop outside of your homes. I mean, it certainly is alive anywhere food is served. And hey, no cafeteria or institution is serving more meals per day than our schools. So my goodness, I love this episode so very much. I have to thank Adam Russo and Mollie Van Lieu for being our guests today. And as you know, for being part of this, Mollie, hey, guess what? The tradition's still alive 100 episodes later. I'm throwing the mic back to you and Adam for the final word and the closing hot seat. But Mollie, we'll start with you with closing remarks. And then Adam, I'd love for you to sign us off from the show today. So Mollie, please.
Thank you, Lori. And again, thanks for having me back. And it was a privilege to be on with Adam today and hearing kind of really how this happens at a grassroots on the ground level. So again, I just encourage folks to, get active in this, especially within the industry as business people. You have such a important and strong voice to advocate locally, with your state and federally. And I would just encourage you to join us to make sure that we can make, a wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables a reality for all Americans and specifically for children.
And I really just want to thank Mollie for your time and everything you guys are doing at the the association, you're really advocating for your partners in the industry, but ultimately advocating for students and better nutrition for them. And a big thank you to Lori. As the grandson of a horticulturalist, my grandmother is looking down right now, very proud of her produce dad, who is going to get the opportunity to sign us out this afternoon. I'll leave you with the thought that's always the same, is that truly this is heroes work, and the folks that do it are my hero every day. And I hope that you left this conversation with a little bit more respect for the people that are serving those meals. Next time you see them on the front line, give them a big smile, give them a big wave. No physical hugs at this point. When we get back away from physical distancing, hugs and high fives are available. We'll take those too. Really, we miss everybody. We'd love to see you back. Lori, Mollie, next time you're in the DC area, come in. I'll wow you with a meal. Our staff does a great job. But truly, thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to talk about our important programs and the importance of fresh fruit and vegetables for our scholars. And so with that, I'll sign you out for the week. Produce Moms out. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.